which is the space that we're in now. It's a little activist cell and family home, and blurring the boundaries between those two things is kind of what we're up to.
I'm Tim, and I'm holding the computer.
I'm Lois, and I'm next to the computer.
Hi, I'm Lana. I live here with Gary and the children, and Gabriel and Sid are in school, which is kind of surprising for late July. And Niall is upstairs, I hope, looking after Lena. That's his task anyway.
I'm Ben. I don't live here. I run Juba Transnational with Lorena, and soon Isaac.
Oh, hello Isaac, welcome.
Get a blessing later on, that'd be great.
I'm Jim Freund. I'm an academic. I work at Lancaster University. So came to the gig last night. Great fan of all of you guys. So I'm just here to see what I can learn, do, help with. I also have a son called Sid.
Oh, really?
And 2 girls as well. Sid's 1 year old last week.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah.
You're very welcome, Jim.
Good.
I'm Eric McGregor. I'm with the choir. I take pictures and collaborate with Facebook and Twitter for the Reverend Billy Choir also.
Oh, me? Oh, I guess they know who you are. I'm Nehemiah. I'm the music director for the Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I was supposed to say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What's your favorite?
I'm Reverend Billy. Known to the civilian population as Bill Talon.
I'm Monica Hunkin. I'm a soprano with the Church of Stop Shopping and help with the actions.
Action Captain.
Wow.
Hello, I'm Donald, and I'm a radical fairy, and I'm also a low bass.
Profundo.
Believe it or not.
Profundo.
Radical and low.
Hi, I'm Sierra Carrere, and I'm an alto with the choir.
I'm Shilpa. I'm an alto in the choir.
I'm Bryce Gill. I'm a tenor with the choir. Sometimes a bass.
When you make a mistake.
I'm Lorena, and I've been living in Liverpool for almost 5 years. And I'm waiting for Isaac. Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Verson. I'm one of the directors of Migrant Artists Mutual Aid, and I now live in Liverpool.
I'm Laura Newman. I'm the diva of the Church of Stop Shopping. Really gave me that name. And I compose the music, some of the music, with Nehemiah and other members. And yeah.
I'm Savitri, and I'm very happy to be at the Institute today, a place that holds great meaning in my life and which we talk about often in surprising ways. So thank you for having us. We think the world of this idea and this place that you've made here. We're really glad to be here again.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And Andy? We're just going around introducing ourselves everywhere just so that everyone knows who we are.
Oh, right.
Are you Andy?
I'm Andy. Hi. Some of you know me, some of you spent the last 24 hours a very sweaty blot of me. I hail originally from Staffordshire. I live in Colchester now, where I'm a live events producer, and I work with various art forms and stuff, and I've been brought in to help sort of take these guys on their journey around the UK, preaching and telling everybody what they do best. And I hope I haven't been too much for pain.
Oh,
No,
no.
yeah.
Opposite.
I'm Galen. I'm from Brooklyn. And I want to be the baby in the action today. You want to third in line.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.
You really welcome me. Are we all right there, Tim?
No, but
Okay.
carry on.
Let's just carry on.
Let's just carry on.
For the technology.
Okay, cool.
We have a spare chair here. Somebody would like to.
Just don't lean back on the chair.
There you go.
Where's Dragonfly?
I wonder if. Oh,
Sorry.
You're eating.
Dragonfly, you joining us?
I needed a sandwich to be fully present. Sorry.
Okay, very good. We've got a spot for you right here when you want.
Really? Sorry, I want you to sit there. I do.
There's Johnson.
There we go.
Dragonfly.
There we go.
Here, I can sit on the floor. Someone can sit over here. Dragonfly wants to sit on the float.
Yes, yeah.
There you go.
Good to me.
My hips flexors.
Maybe I haven't got some. Maybe because I'm on my iPad, you know. I don't know about this flash or whatever.
All right.
okay, so let's crack on with the conversation, if that's all right for everyone. I think. I mean, there's different people in the room with different interests and different backgrounds, and I think one of the things that brings us together, I'm speculating a little bit, but one of the things that brings us together, because it's such an obvious thing, is climate change. It doesn't matter what our backgrounds are or where we've been or what we've done in the past, we're all, in a sense, made from flesh and bone, and we have to face climate change. What's, the old Leninist question, what's to be done, or how are we approaching that, or what's the, I don't know, what do people think, what do people feel, how's it, because we were talking last night over some wine, Billy, thinking about the forces of making families in light of changing climates. And that seems to me like a really interesting sort of set of thoughts and stuff, because we're producing children personally in the institute. There's another one on the way, and we're
over there in the corner.
Sorry, is that supposed to say Just to know that
Maybe 10,000 people say that.
Let me tweet that.
Okay. That's okay. So what's that about? I mean, I can talk about what that means and what that feels like for me, like on a sort of personal level, but not everyone in the room is about to produce a baby. There's a clear example in Lorena. She's about to produce a baby with Ben, and maybe there's other secrets in the room that I'm not going to pry into, so I just don't know. I'm not drawing anything out. But I wonder if we could start there. What the kids mean in this? Why are we in Liverpool? Not everybody, obviously, but why are we in Liverpool undergoing a baby boom?
Oh, you are? That's going on right
Yeah.
now? Wow.
It feels like. I mean, all the people we know that they're all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh.
People are choosing to have children. A lot of. And there's two ways of. We do have this sub rosa, this emerging generation that we feel, and we feel an obligation. Because the scientists are telling us that the physical systems of life will be changing so radically for them. So we're in this conversation with future life. Another aspect of that is that our relationships with one another, certainly we feel this in the choir, are changing and becoming more intimate, more we're feeling the intensity of the question, what is to be done, feels more moving and intense, and the feeling that we're running out of time. 6 or 8 years ago, when our main focus was resisting consumerism, resisting the purchase of products we don't want and can't afford, and cause pain in the making of them. The consideration of the earth was just one of us. It was a subset of several things we were thinking about. Destruction of neighborhoods, hurting children with too much Disney, and so forth. Now, there isn't a lot of issues. It's more like one issue, and it's life. So we feel the presence of children arriving, but then we feel a change in our family relationships too.
I think there's a really interesting thing that happens when you are teaching anyone, it's a child or another person or a community or anything, which you have to make decisions for yourself about what you think in that process. And so children can be a great reflector of that, but so can anyone. You know, it's not to be sort of chauvinistic about the child part of it, but the thing that is very stark is this question I keep asking about the child that's in my life, but then I ask it of myself, which is, am I preparing her to fight against climate change and to stop it, or am I preparing her to live in a, post-something world where everything's really terrible, So, and there's a huge shaded gradation between those two things, like have I given up on changing it, and I'm just preparing her to deal with it, or am I training her and preparing her and giving her the skills to change it, So I'm just always oscillating between those two things, and then in turn I ask that of myself, and that highlights for me a lot of the tensions and questions and possibilities of like my activist life, those two states.
Well, I'm just thinking, especially starting with the topic of children, and I think about Michelle, who's a choir member that hasn't been with us a few years, but she was in the group for like maybe 7 years.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember I had a conversation with her once about her son, and how she had said that when she was in her 20s, she said, I can't have children. I mean, the world has gone to shit and it's overpopulated. Like, why would I contribute to that? And now with climate change, I don't want to put my child's life in danger. And I hear many, many liberal people say that it's like, you can't have children. This is a terrible idea. And then she said she went to a family reunion in Tennessee or something with all of her very conservative, right-wing religious Christian family, and that her little cousins were already having 2 and 3 kids, and she said, I have to procreate. I have to compete with these people. She's like, the world is really going to go to shit if we don't step up. And I mean, yes, we can write books, we can protest, but our children are also, what carry on these ideas. And so there's this, and even in that movie, Idiocracy, they talk about that the liberal movement is there's this consciousness and this understanding of overpopulation, environmental damage. So we stop having children, and that's, I don't know if that's the best idea, and I really applaud those of you having kids for the risk that it takes, and I think it's important,
When this last fall, when my neighborhood was devastated, like the whole sections of it were like underwater, and people whose children had to leave their home because their home was destroyed, and it would take months before they were able to put it back together again. So it was an extraordinary experience of like really getting to know, like on a very real basis, what this could mean. Because where I live could be underwater in 50 years. I mean, it's really a possibility. And like, it's great that now they're suddenly thinking about it and trying to come up with ideas, even though most of them are rather bizarre, and build a wall, the first idea, like stop the ocean.
King, can you describe that?
Yeah, right, exactly. But oyster beds. That's actually, I like that part. But what was extraordinary to me and to my neighbors, which probably a lot of us never really thought it would happen, but what did happen was a huge outpouring of compassion and love and trying to be kind to each other and help each other. And it was quite extraordinary to experience. and especially the children who, like a lot, were terrified and didn't know what was going to happen next. I mean, I think children more than a lot of us are depend on like stability and like regularity, and there it is, destroyed. It's gone, and like to give them that comfort and understanding that like we can all help each other and it will work out. It will be okay. You know, it'll be different, but it will be okay. It was an experience, truly. Wake up.
My grandmother used to say when she met people that she considered good, they asked them if they were married or not, and if they were single, she was always saying, go get married and have children, because good people should have children. That's the reason why the bad people are winning all the wars. And the idea of having a children or not, you know, it's like I always say with whatever, it's not what you have, it's what you do with it, you know, because it's very easy to have a children and teach them compliance, you know, just not to put too much effort, just give it to the education system and make them compliant. But we were privileged to be raised by a mother that always make us question everything, and that's teaching dissent at home. You know, don't be if somebody's is trashing your planet, you know, don't say, you know, that's the way it is. You know, don't say, teach them to not to say, you know, it's just myself. You know, do something about it, and that's what I think about. You know, if we're going to bring kids to this world, is what we do with them, which values we are sharing and transmit to them, and how we tell them to, you know, never be compliant and, you know, agree with everything, always question everything.
There was a show, a theater show, The Royal Courts, a very, very conventional theater. So 10 billion over the summer. And it was just a scientist talking straight to the audience. And it was kind of a freshman level, not really very good introduction to population, but actually really not very good. But it was seen as being, for those people who had never thought about climate change, it was seen as being revelatory in some way. So you have to sort of temper things with that. But it ended with him saying, well, I have a son, what am I going to do? We're fucked, I'll tell him to get a gun. And that was where it came to with that. So when you know, sort of thinking about it, you think how miserably dystopian is that that thing. And so, like you were saying, create the world that you want to enter into in theater or in whatever. But he was creating the world that nobody wanted. You would never want to enter into that world. And it really played on a belief system in a certain kind of authority, which was the science authority, without questioning it. So I think I don't have children, so I think, you know, I can't comment on what it's like to have children, but I think it ties in with, I was interested in how you make theater as well, or how you make art, as well as how you make your family, or how you make activism.
I think also like a lot about loving other people's children. Because like when I go to my daughter's school, there's other kids that aren't coming from homes where the parents are teaching them to resist, or they're coming from homes where they don't feel as much love, and sort of being in that environment and giving love to children, to other people's children, so that, you know, because my daughter might, I don't think she'll be a banker. Like I'm sure that there's this like sort of ingrained rebellion that she might rebel, and I sort of like constantly sit with that in terms of like how I help her to understand values, but also then engage with love with children I might not like with children at the playground, and talk about nonviolence with the children at the playground, and respect for the planet. So it's not just your children; it's your relationship with all children.
Speaking of,
yeah,
it's the subject at hand.
Indeed.
I think it's really interesting what you said, that making theater and making family and making the world that you want to live in. And you know, we all have these sort of the project of life at this point. I think whatever it is, whether it's a child or a show, you know, you have to include those that larger consideration that Billy was talking about of the like just the urgency. And I guess that's what's hard is how you, if you feel the urgency of climate change in your life and you look around and like thousands of other people don't seem to, how do you convey the urgency? And I think that's the even, I mean, to anyone, to your children or to anyone, when we can look outside and it's another beautiful day and the flowers are growing and things just seem to be carrying on.
But oftentimes the flowers growing in a beautiful day is actually media. You know, a lot, we're encapsulated in media so thoroughly now that a lot of us are just sitting in air-conditioned media. And we kind of joke about how hot it is outside. It's like talking about the weather, I think has gone through, talking about the weather is the main form of gossip in the world and has been for centuries. I think there's been a shift in that we no longer talk about the weather in the weather. And we talk about it like it's it's our bad cousin or something. It's got some distance from us. Hurricane Sandy was, you remember that in the presidential election, until Hurricane Sandy happened, the two presidential candidates did not mention climate change.
Not a word, not a word.
That was pretty instructive. That the debates in which they're in front of 70 million Americans, that would not come up. But we felt as if, in our performance a lot, we say the earth is our teacher, our leader, and it's like something. It's like something that we say in our songs, and then we let it float out there and let the impossible phrase, you know, since the industrial age, not something that it's easy for us to believe in, right? We started right here, I think, over here in Birmingham. The Enlightenment, the industrial age, we're not supposed to ascribe intelligent intentions to the earth. But then we've watched in New York, we've watched people use the word Sandy. Sandy said, or Sandy showed us, or Sandy. We were too chauvinistic to even put in levees. It was so impossible for us to believe that a hurricane or the ocean could ever upset the apple. You know? We just put Frank Sinatra and Liza Minnelli out there, sing this song.
Storm it back.
Now, 7, 8 months later, we're starting to feel some disappointment that Sandy did not have more of an impact. We were very interested at the time what cultural shift that might have taken place, and we were thinking this is our theater. This is the Church of Earth Alleluia coming in off the North Atlantic and going right at Wall Street. And this is the theater. This is our model. This is what it'll take. This is what we have to do on our smaller scale with our songs and prayers and sermons. And now we're starting to feel the fading from the scene of that immediacy. I'm starting to worry that we have this enormous ability to normalize anything. You know, your neighbors can die. You know, we have somebody moving into our home now from Breezy Point. Her home was destroyed, and she's moving in downstairs because our landlady, who lives down on the kind of half basement, it's her niece. Am I correct? Cousin, niece, and Lorraine in the family, doesn't have a place to live, so she's moving into our house. So the Breezy Point comes home. Comes all the way to Windsor Terrace. The what it will take to, I mean, I think our main focus in the last couple of years since we started the Earth Alleluia phase of our work, the main focus has been to convey the urgency. How do you, like you just asked that question, how do you convey, and it feels to us like we're, and didn't you feel this last night in the service? Trying to remind us of what it was in the civil rights, when it wasn't when ACT UP began. What were those people doing? How were they sharing a sense of impending danger that was so extreme that we have to save our lives? This injustice, this danger cannot continue, and now we will risk everything together. We look into each other's eyes and we go over the top, into the bullets, into the conservative cousins, into the people whose world is to get a gun. Now we're just
maybe Monica and Eric could talk a little bit about their work on the pipeline, because Monica and Eric have been really involved the last 14 months resisting a pipeline in New York, and I've done a lot of that frontline activism. So,
well, I was just thinking about we're right now in New York City facing an onslaught of pipelines, of fracked gas pipelines coming in, of Spectra coming into the West Village, into the Rockaways with a Rockaway lateral pipeline right on the heels of Hurricane Sandy into this precious wetland that was flooded and destroyed, and the Constitution pipeline, and also a series of LNG ports, liquefied natural gas. And there was just a protest in Long Island about a hearing for an LNG station, and one of the girls in Occupy the Pipeline in the group that we both work with told us that a union dredging worker came up to her after the hearing, and they had a dispute, and he was very angry, and he said, "You don't even have a right to talk about this because you don't even have children. So you have no right to protest this."
Wow.
And she's like, "What, you're going to say that because I haven't been able to find a quality man?" Yeah. But I think there's this prejudice about, or this feeling about that the radical left is so focused and targeted on the end. And that we're constantly, or I feel constantly, especially with all these pipelines that we're fighting, that we're just in this cycle of reactivity constantly, because it's just like that. It's that. Is it the Frogger game where you have to
whack-a-mole?
Yeah, whack-a-mole.
Yeah,
where they're just like one's popping up here and one's popping up here, and you just don't have enough time to hit them all, And so then when do you get to grow, those, oh, here's the solar panels and here's the windmills, it's just to focus on the future. And so I think there's this prejudice from those union workers and the working class and other people who are like, yes, we need the gas. We need that to feed our children and to, use for our stoves. What else can we do? We have to move day to day and do that and take care of our own. And so they think they're focusing on building the future. And what are we doing, ending things and thinking about, and being alarmists or being this reactive force. And so how do we step forward more with language and with energy that is creative and productive and working towards our future? And I think that there's maybe something more solidifying or building solidarity when there are groups of people like you that are starting families, and that you have that connection, at least that's something, that very basic human thing that you can build on. Yes, well, I have a child, you have a child, this is where we step forward. How do we make the best future for our children, for our family? That's something that everyone can understand.
At the top end, there's also the 1% or the 1% of the 1% who think they're immune, and their kids and their grandkids are immune. And it's complete bullshit. When the poles melt, nobody's immune. It's going to be chaos around everywhere. The 1% are going to be in the shit with everybody else, but they don't realise it. I think one job we can do is educate the top, that the bankers, the plutocracy, the bankers and the politicians. You guys aren't going to escape from this problem. it's a common global problem. The guy called Simon Cooper just wrote an article in the FT about 6 months ago. He's a football columnist, but he wrote about climate change.
Oh wow, good. That's great.
Yeah, but unfortunately, what did he say? He said, he said climate change is something that happens to faraway people, and we're going to wing it on climate change. We're going to, and this phrase is stuck in my brain. We're going to wing it on climate change. It's like you're not going to wing it. You haven't got any wings. Your wings are going to stop because your fossil fuels are going to run out, and you're going to be right in the shit on climate change.
Financial Times?
That's in the Financial Times by a guy called Simon Cooper, K-U-P-E-R. But
Who's a Man United supporter, obviously.
But I do think there's an education job to be done at that top level, as well as the kind of the mass consumer who thinks more fossil fuels is the answer. There's also, we've got to sort out the financial system. That's where the gophers are popping up. They're not popping up on their own steam.
That's
They're
right.
popping up because our whole monetary and fiscal systems are based on continuous growth, which is impossible. And what's behind the chart, the horror chart of hockey stick, where it goes, within my dad's lifetime, he's 85 years old and very healthy and happy, but it's gone from 1 billion to 7.1 billion. I mean, that's bonkers, right? And that's a fossil fuel explosion. If you look at the graph, it goes, if you put it on a 10,000-year scale, it goes boom.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, I'm at the top of this graph, balanced on this huge pile of coal, oil, and gas and plutonium. How long is that going to last? A balancing act with 7.1 billion people balanced on the top of this explosion. I mean, you're preaching the right things. And you're singing
preaching.
about
This
the
is
right
good preaching.
Well, I gave a presentation about this like a week ago at a conference, and somebody said to me the same thing. One of the tiny audience, because most people didn't come because it was too scary, and it had the word devil in the title. Brand as devil. Also had the word brand as devil. It was about BP. It was including reference to your performance at the tape and stuff. But one woman said, well, first she said, we've got too many plastic bags. And then she said, we all need to kill ourselves. Yeah. She went from the completely
Plastic Maybe with the plastic bags. They could do with the plastic bags.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I've really...
Well, you've hit upon something I think that's always been really interesting about this project and about, I think, some of the successful groups that we've collaborated with is that you do have to target not just the general public and sort of convert activists as we do in our services. And many of us were converted. I myself was saw a show in 1999 and became an activist. So that's one level of our work. But the other level, which I remember was pointed out to me by Mark Reed at a Starbucks protest once, is he sort of whispered in my ear. He's like, Billy's not just like telling the public to boycott Starbucks. He's actually talking to Starbucks. Like that's part of what we're doing. And when we go into the banks, we're talking with them, and it's so amazing to hear, like with all the mountaintop removal protests we were doing a couple years ago, that upper level people in, was it Citibank or Chase, who called us,
they called us that damn terrorist church.
A terrorist church, and we're like, yes, they know us. Yes, like that they're listening, and I always give people the example when they say like, oh, but you don't really think you're making a difference, right? And of course we struggle with that all the time. It's just like, are we doing anything? That we had this campaign with Victoria's Secret years ago with the collaboration with many different activist organizations, and not just activism in the stores, but actual conversations with the leaders of that company. By the Rainforest Action Network, and they would dress in suits and get rid of their weird punk haircuts and try to really appeal to them as fellow human beings and with moral values. And Victoria's Secret went from using no recycled paper, even though they're the largest producer of catalogs in the world, to 1 million catalogs a day they were producing, to going over to completely recycled paper because of these campaigns. So I think that's really key, is we have to target and send love and communication to the 1% just as much as we are to our communities, and to keep balancing both of those tactics, because it is, just getting one of those 1% to shift their thinking and start thinking about the morality of how they're participating in the economy and the power they have, is makes a huge difference, you know.
We should check in with forest ethics and see how that shift by that industry over to recycled. What do they call it? Post-consumer? There's a phrase.
That was a really interesting case because in order to make enough recycled pulp to comply with that commitment, they actually had to take abandoned wood mills and turn them into recycling mills. So they actually created a whole secondary industry, which then because it was available, then it was easier for other people to get it. So there was this whole amazing trickle down where suddenly other catalogs were using recycled material because it was newly
Starting
available.
to become available.
Hallelujah!
Well, the emotional defense of the forests that were being clear cut and devastated by this need for these, you know, semi-pornographic underwear catalogs. Very important, you know, for a 13-year-old kid to go to the bathroom a while with those things. But the diversity of the boreal forests up in the Rocky Mountains and the pictures. And then when we would meet with some of the people that lived there, and that that gave us a lot of courage to go into their stores. And so we would have fashion. We staged fashion events. Donald had
great outfit.
Very little
what there was of it.
Well, no.
I remember a fluorescent thong, and kind of a cardboard chainsaw. But now, the tar sands is doing what our efforts 5-6 years ago. The tar sands has gone right into that, the kind of wetlands, boreal forest with all that diversity, and it's just like World War One there. You've seen some of the pictures. We were just with the Native Americans in. I'm sorry, honey.
Yeah.
We were just with the Native Americans in San Francisco, the Idle No More people who I think are the best chance against tar sands. You know, they rise right out of those very hills, and there they are. They're at home already. They're trying to move them and make deals, and trying to change treaties. And you know, back in Ottawa, they're trying to because they need a pipeline through native land to get to the Pacific. I'm sorry, Savi, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering because you initially asked the question, why is that baby boom happening here in Liverpool, and why do you think it is, and what are you struggling with now? I know that fracking is coming in now, and just wonder what
totally
what you're responding to.
I've got two things running around my head. One is they limited the time for the conversation because we promised people we'd meet them outside HSBC at 12:30, and that's like and HSBC are involved in tar sands and all that. They're all heavily involved. But I don't know, to answer my own question, I don't really know why there's a baby boom. I can only answer for myself that something in me moved that in conversation with Lena that made me want to go again on that baby. I don't know what to call it, baby making. Conjure up images. I don't know. But yeah, just to go again.
But I think in terms of what's preoccupying us at the moment, we were recently involved in this commission by Arts Admin and 2 Degrees Festival, which happens every 2 years in London, which is about climate change and art. And we read this document called The Great Transition. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's quite a boring but good document. So I would say, you know, it's a good read. It's written by a group of called New Economics Foundation, who are kind of proposing an alternative. So it's quite a pragmatic document that is actually outlining how we can live with this population. So population isn't the problem really, it's the resources and how we are using the resources and the greed that we have, and you know, kind of the competition and all of this, but actually how we could live within the limits of what we have. And it was quite interesting because we read it as a family, and it kind of reads as a utopian ideal, and we read it, and then we were also kind of, you know, engaging with it. Well, that's not possible, because the first section is the great revaluing, and that's the biggest problem, is how we're gonna let go of the values that we, you know, want to have, you know, like a new car, a new house, you know, I don't know, like new things. Like I'm now, you know, very practically, you know, there's the baby coming, and with Sid, when Sid was the baby, I made a decision, and we didn't have buy any new things because there's so much recycled, and you know what I mean, like, so we all got everything, or just were given, or you know. But now I'm a bit, ooh, I don't know, it's terrible. You know, just like you were having the urge on the stage yesterday, I want that new pram, ooh, you know, like, because things have changed, and I know this is my last baby, or you know what I mean. I mean, hopefully I will resist the urge. God is better than me, sorry, in this, but you know, I don't know why I said that.
No,
But
I don't know why you said that
that's-
either. That was
Anyway,
great, yeah.
so
I
there
just
is
hold you back.
with the great transition. It's written for the UK, but it is kind of proposing a model which could be implemented, you know, kind of. But it does involve, I mean, they are interested, they're like a lobby group, New Economics Foundation. They're interested in actually talking to the government, talking to different, you know, different sectors of society. And we were like kind of commissioned as artists, not just us. There was a group of artists, and it's a kind of a European project running through different European countries. So there is, I mean, I think, you know, there is a debate out there at all levels. I mean, I watched this film, have you seen it, Promised Land, recently?
Yeah.
It's a, so I saw that, which is a Hollywood film, and that's, you know, that's good that it's out there as well. At least it's in public, you know, kind of debate. But
Makes the word fracking more recognisable,
yes,
doesn't it?
yeah. But then in terms of what's going on in Liverpool, Jen, and Housing Hope, Ross Howie, I mean, that's a true alternative. And because I'm always kind of worried, you know, with what we are doing, lots of the energy goes in like dissent, anti, against what you were saying, you know, hitting people, you know, like kind of stop, whilst actually, instead of sometimes actually creating. And, you know, I think the example of, you know, what Jan has set up together with, well, Migrant Artists Mutual Aid as well, that was another project that, I mean, that Jan has founded, which was actually actively helping migrants in difficult situations. And then the other one is the Housing Co-op, which is very much to do with family life, and it's a housing co-op for people with children or without children. So it's a kind of a, I suppose, communal living in some kind.
We're bleeding our money into capitalism, so it's finding a place to stand and fight, and it's really quite easy. It was easy to be an activist without children, but what sort of infrastructures do you need if you're going to be on like a low income and be an activist for the rest of your life? And you know, there's lots of different, you know, sort of complexities. It was great, you know, 5 of the Rose Howie kids last night completely misbehaved. You know, but
was that them doing that little light thing on people's faces?
But like we're feeding our resources out, you know, to banks and to corporations, and there's like, at least you can stop, you know, bleeding money into capitalist organizations that you don't really want to support.
And also, you know, personally for me, like I really wanted to get pregnant, and I feel something about it had to do with I need to change something in myself, and I need to, like, all this form of activism that I have been involved, something was kind of reaching a limit, a place where of constant, this is not good enough. You know, what we are doing is something in myself that is not good enough. Good enough in terms of is not able to be open enough, generous enough. I don't know, like, and it was a search of I think at the moment I'm quite like blocked in terms of I don't know what to do. You know, this baby is coming. What is gonna happen with it, and what's the direction? But I feel something about being quite stuck and confused, and was something I needed in order to maybe change the way I'm thinking and the way I'm, because there was something too like that, no? In the way I was moving through the world, and I wanted to stop. And this is giving me the excuse, in a sense, and it's kind of how. And I feel that's there, you know? Like, it's kind of,
There he is. Listening to you.
But I'm quite scared about what I'm bringing to this baby, you know, precisely because of that, and in that sense of how, how we are going to influence this baby. You know, what is it that we are actually ourselves giving? And all these ideals and all these values, they are quite, you know, good but too directive somehow. Yeah.
I've looked at the New Economics Foundation stuff a lot, and they're very good, and they're linked with people in the States as well as in Europe.
Okay.
But somebody pointed out to me the other day, who has actually he was a guy called Sir John Houghton, who was interviewing about climate change. He was the author on the first two IPCC reports, and he said the IEA, the International Energy Agency, which is the core of the establishment, they're who all the governments turn to find out about future energy predictions. They just published in June a plan to keep it nearly under 2 degrees. I mean, and we all know that 2 degrees is really dangerous anyway, but let's say that was a good target. They've literally published a plan, and they say, in the introduction it says, this will cause no net economic loss to any region of the, you know, globally, but it will hurt the fossil fuel companies big time, because it will get rid of all of the $500 billion subsidies that they get from governments around the world. But it won't cause any regional. So in theory, the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans, the Europeans everyone can sign up to this. And it's the IEA. It's the most hardcore, you know, people in the world, and it's a fully, totally, you know, worked out plan. It's on the internet. Got not much coverage, but it was published in June, you know, this year, and it's there. So there's actually a technical plan coming out of the heart of the establishment saying this is how we do it, and that's just as a holding pattern while they sort out the proper negotiations. Now that nobody's doing it, none of the governments are doing it or even talking about doing it, but it's there, and it's wonderful that it's not come out of an alternative think tank like the New Economics Foundation. Although they're brilliant, they're seen as the other. It's coming out of the core. You know, these are the guys who all the governments have sort of rested on for their future predictions about fossil fuel. And
we should use that in
So
our process.
how can we like get hooked into that and like make that more known? And
we could download it. You could write a song about it. You could preach it. You could, you know, share it virally, even any other way.
Right. One of the things that we start practicing with Occupy the Pipeline is our messaging, because for the longest time we were so embedded into that, and we studied and we knew so much about how hydrofracking works and how the gas is transported, the speed of the gas on the pipeline, and we were trying to convey that to the general public that in reality doesn't care at all, you know, because it happens in Pennsylvania, it doesn't affect me, so why should I care? You know, it's just 400 miles away. So we start changing the message instead of like throwing a lot of scientific facts. Start with because that's a deductive method of education. You give the everything and they try to, you know, they deduct it. But we start trying to induce this knowledge to them by starting with a simple flyer of how these affect me.
Right.
You know, how this gas that is 400 miles away will affect me is because the gas is coming with radon that will sit in your kitchen attached to dust particles, and your kids, pets, and yourself are going to start breathing, and it's going to start like destroying you from the inside. So once they got that, they start getting like, oh, okay, there's something that is coming to my house, and it's like a first step, and they always have two options. They can just like out of the fear and out of compliance because Fox News telling them that everything is okay. So you're a conspiracy theorist and you just walk away and then happy cancer. See you, when we have to pick up your bills because you won't have healthcare anyway. And,
right.
or the other group of people are the ones that start like getting involved by also step by step by signing an online petition.
Right.
And when they get pissed off about online petitions because it's not changing, they maybe will come and join and hold a sign on a march. Then escalates until guys agrees to climb a crane and just lock himself to the crane and civilians stop the construction for 2-3 hours and start gathering more people. But it started the change of communication from how this touches you, this thing that is happening like a world away is going to destroy the beach that you're going to. It's going to destroy the parks that you're going to. It's going to affect the health of your kids. They're going to put a gas station right next to your kids' school, so they will be breathing methane, radioactive methane, for 10 hours a day. So that's how we start getting more people involved.
Yeah. I live in Jersey City where the pipeline, it's 5 blocks from my house. I mean, it's right near my house. It goes right past a high school. It goes underneath of 3 playgrounds. It's underneath the turnpike. The whole town was up in arms against it. The entire city council voted against it. The mayor spoke out radically. The only thing that he actually did in the 8 years he was in office was speak out about Spectre Pipeline. The people voted against it. There was a vote in the town against it. It went through anyway. The federal government said yes. The EPA, they said yes. And it went right through. And it's just beyond shocking that we have our say, as loud as we were saying it, had no effect whatsoever on the actual end product. And that changed a lot of people's attitudes about a lot of things, because when we actually saw that reality of that we are against it, we're demonstrated that we were clearly in the majority in a fairly large city, and it didn't make any difference. Sorry to bring that up.
It's an important point. Local democracy is overruled by
Yeah.
Spectra is financed by J.P. Morgan Chase. Spectra Energy of Houston, Texas is the company, and then the third item in that triangle would be Mike Bloomberg would be the government, our local government, run by a billionaire Wall Street crooks. And that trio, that trinity, has proven to be unstoppable so far. They're not operating yet.
No, they're not.
They're still, the radon's not in our kitchens yet.
No, it's still not.
Just wondering about that image of the gophers and then what you were saying about personalising these things. And I wonder if there's something about a shift away from, so there's what's going on outside of you. This terrible event is happening here, or this huge calamity is, these things are going on, and everyone knows they're going on, but maybe it's something, maybe the focus needs to be on people's engaging with their own vulnerability, irrespective of these things. And then once that's done, there'll be an implication and an understanding that those things will affect them eventually. Because we're all caught up in this, Western invincibility. Everyone knows capitalism doesn't work. Everyone knows it's going to bust, but we keep making money, and we deny the fact that there's going to be a crash. We're not engaging with our own vulnerability.
Well, when you say teach that we are vulnerable, can you give me an example?
We're constantly denying the fact we're going to die. I don't know how do we
mortality.
Yeah, how do we
Throw someone out of the forest to survive.
take a time, take a space where we a time to think about that fact that we are fragile. That we all, all the news is always the environment is fragile, the environment is fragile. We don't link to it because we don't think we are fragile.
Right.
But unfortunately, I don't have
Well, we have
We
these
are-
natural disasters are having people finally realize that.
Yeah.
Like Sandy, and that's when the
That's
true
when it
compassion
hits,
comes
yeah.
out, the true
And
humanity.
then people
community.
do help each other and they
It's really
do talk
beautiful.
to each other.
That's the upside of these natural disasters is that we are realizing how vulnerable and how fragile we are,
But we need
and that
yeah.
Earth is the boss.
We need it. We need it not to be the disaster. We just on a daily basis. we
Nature
need
immersion programs for our children, like we just need to remember that we're made of Earth and go be in nature and realize we are just a small speck of this huge ecosystem and be humbled by it.
Yeah.
I know that nature for me has been a huge reminder of that, and my friends are now teaching children with nature nomadic awareness programs and immersion programs, and it really transforms individuals. We're just so disconnected from nature with all the cement and technology. I think that's one way to really come back in communion with it. And then we could all become Buddhists.
I just came back from 4 days at Annie Sprinkle and Beth Stevens' eco-sex art making workshop leading up to their symposium. They're pioneering an idea called ecosexuality, which is the intersection of the environment, nature, ecology, with our sensuality and our sexuality. Shifting the idea of Earth as mother to Earth as lover. Because you're kind to your lover, you're gentle to your lover, you protect your lover. You caress and nurture your lover.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all been very guilty at some point or another of taking our mother for granted.
Oh, yeah.
And even our lover too. But the kind of attention and intention that you show a lover is so much more fully reciprocal and giving of bodies and flesh. And I say this to add on to what Sierra added, that it's ironic that the older I get, the more I realize how nature loving I am. After having been, growing up in one of the world's most beautiful places, so beautiful to the point that, again, the people from there are so arrogant about it. Texas, you think God bless America, there's a whole song about God bless Texas, But at the same time, realizing how isolated I was from nature. Driving around in air-conditioned automobiles all the time in big, huge vehicles. Had our patio converted to an enclosed sunroom because my mom can't stand the mosquitoes and flies. But going out into a tent and gazing at the moon and being still enough to literally just watch it track across the sky. When do we have little kids really do that? When do we, as adults or even as elders, really take that moment to stop and realize how small we are, not just on this planet, but in this entire universe? And so I'm not sure what I meant to say, rather than just really reframing what this planet is everything. And even the relationship that we have with our bodies, I'm realizing, corresponds to the relationship that we have with our planet. Which even then ties into consumerism. We're ashamed of the way we smell. You gotta buy something to make you smell better. We're ashamed of the way we look. So we're ripping our pubic hairs out at the root because it's so disgusting when it's so natural. But if you're not ashamed of the way you look, when you find 2 tree stumps growing out of the earth, you're realizing that it looks like a woman's legs and her pubis. And to even say the word cunt in a loving way Because fecund comes from the same word, fertility. Country. Cunt tree. Comes from the same word.
I love my country.
I love my country. I really love my country.
And on that note, we gotta go BC now.
Freakaluya to you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gary, for hosting us.